Hey everyone, Gideon here, and today what we're going to talk about is the irony of Karl Marx calling the family unit a slave unit. Now, allegedly, Karl Marx is considered a Satanist, and I know that it's common amongst communists to believe in atheism. They don't believe in a god, but apparently Karl Marx does. Now, I personally don't know if he really does believe in Satan or not, but either way, and even for him, either way, I bet he was in communication with fallen archangels because of a system for him to implement communism is definitely a system coming from fallen archangels. Because why? Well, in communism, they value the citizens by their work, right? By what they can produce. And that's how they view society, how it should run. And, get rid of the old people, get rid of people who have disabilities, forget about them. Wait for the next class of young workers who are able to build the mother country. And that's the same thing with not only fallen archangels. Fallen archangels are bad because they want to push that kind of society onto human beings. But angels in general, they value power, they value work. So, I've said this a lot in my other videos before, and they can't experience love in terms of family because they can't produce children. They don't have siblings to love. They don't experience having parents. They don't experience having a wife or having a husband. And we all know in the Bible that they're male, so it's not like they could have husbands, right? But they don't experience that realm. They're servants, so they only deem in ways of power, just like government, right? Government can't really produce children. They can't really produce families. And if that were the case, if government does that, or you would say, I guess, if businesses were in a business of producing children, well, that's kind of called, child trafficking, right? Or selling slaves, right? We don't sell human beings, right? That's kind of like slavery in a way. That's a very bad thing, because if that were to happen, well, that's part of the fallen archangel realm, where human beings are slaves to an archangelic realm. Fallen archangelic realm. I should be more explicit. So anyway, again, he's calling the family unit a slave unit, where originally, and especially how it's raised up in a Judeo-Christian society such as here in America, that the man is the one who goes out and work. He reaps what he sows. He brings it to the household, and he thus shares it with his own, because it's his, right? It is his money, but he shares it out of his love for his family, right? And it's very common that the woman is the one who takes care of the household, and the children, they're there to receive love and grow up and learning about how to be basically a good citizen, really, to be educated, and to be loved by the parents. That's a normal thing. But instead, with Karl Marx, who has been backed up with dialectic materialism with Engels, right? They call it the family unit a slave unit, where the wife and the children are slaves to the husband, right? Again, that's the devil or the fallen angel tickling into the woman's ear, saying, hey, you know what? Your husband, he has all this power, and you're a slave. You're just a slave to him, right? So this is where there's an uprising of, you could say, feminism, right? Where in feminism, they claim to have equality. Wait, we need to have equality, right? But, well, what is that? What is really that equality gonna go to? Well, here's the thing about Karl Marx, where his advice to the woman, to try to convince the man to try to push not into the capitalist system, right? But into this public ownership, that there shouldn't be any private ownership. And that's how everyone could be equal, which is totally evil. God in the Bible wants us to own creation, right? Own our property. That's very natural, but not in ways of, obviously not in ways of forcing, people out of their property. Anyway, the thing is, what's interesting is that, again, this is the very same thing of what happened in the garden when Satan went to Eve and said, hey, if you want to be like God, eat this fruit, right? And Eve was supposed to be a helper to Adam, but instead she wanted to be a god. This is the very same thing where in this natural family system, it's natural for the wife to be a helper of the husband. That's fine. That's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed about that. But what's so sad about, this communist system, which feminism is backed by, right, is that, hey, the woman doesn't have enough power. She doesn't have enough power, so we need to find equality, right? So let's push everything to be equal. Well, then guess where that power is going to be thus distributed to? It's going to be distributed to a man. That is called government, okay? Now, if we understand about the role of government and the role of angels that's described in the Bible, okay, they're both servants to the people. But if you're going to get your man, who in a way is an Adamic figure, right, to take care of the family, to trade his power and thus give it to government, right, and have government have all the power to decide what's public, well, guess what? You're still a slave, okay? Well, actually, matter of fact, you're not even a slave in the first place under Judeo-Christian foundation. You're not a slave. You're a person who wants to voluntarily share their heart and support their husband. That's a beautiful thing. But they try to say that you're a slave to that. And that's the thing about the fallen archangel realm. They can't understand. They can't understand that realm. Okay, they can only see through power, right? So communists and feminists are inheriting this fallen archangel ideology because the angels can only see through power. They can't understand this whole love dynamic. So is it true that in a way men who work in a capitalist society have more power? Yes, but guess what? It comes with the responsibility. Okay, so it's very clear that men in a way suffer a lot more than women do usually in society. It's a very usual thing that men suffer more. There's on jobs, there's more men who die in their jobs. There's a lot more stress. They have to take care of the family. Men don't have an easy job. Talk about slavery. If anything, men are slaves to their family because they have to take care of them, have to worry about them. Again, if a burglar comes to the house, who's the one that's going to defend the family? Who's the first one that's going to defend the family? It's going to be the husband. So it's absolutely not a slave system, but because the fallen archangels who got to the communists, who get to feminism, say that it's all about power because that's the only way they see it. Okay, that's the only way they see that these human beings, with fallen archangels, they don't want human beings to have more power than them. They want to be the ones on top. They want to be the ones who are above the stars of what it said in Ezekiel chapter 14. Chapter 14, verse 28, I believe. I'm going to correct myself if I'm wrong on that one. Anyway, it's an irony because the woman is eventually making herself into an actual slave, just like Eve, right? So Eve thought she was going to be a god, when in actuality, she became more of a slave. And after she fell, what God told her, he said, hey, you're going to grovel to the feet of your man. So instead of being a helper, actually, you're going to be a slave to your man. Why? Well, because Adam, now that he inherited the fallen archangelic lineage, right? Now she's actually a slave to her husband because her husband now represents being part of a lineage of Satan. So now throughout, you could say, divine providence, finally God has really communicated with, you could say, the prophets, and finally Jesus came, the Son of God, right? And then with Paul, the faithful Christians such as Paul, and then awesome people in Christian history who have really tried to build up the Judeo-Christian culture that eventually what we've seen in America, especially in America, is healthy family units between the relationship of husband and wife, and honoring each other and honoring the children honoring the parents. But this is out of love, okay? All this power and this structure, right, is all for the sake of love. Again, it's not all for the sake of power. So I hope you guys had a good time listening to this. Love you all. Peace out. Mwah.